Okay, in the last video we made this little program to create and display these kind of fractal patterns, and you can open like an editor mode here and make a new pattern, and then it should show that when you go back. And I think that's pretty cool. That looks kind of weird, but that it is what it is. Anyway, so what I want to do in this video is to try to add colors. And now to do this, we'll need to improve the editor a little bit. We'll need like some color picker, and there will need to be not just two states, but a variable number of states. So let's try to do that. The first thing we should probably do is to make a new file that we'll call editors.c, and it's going to contain the code for the editor. So let me get this. So if the editor is open, then we're gonna call, let's call it draw editor. It will need to take some kind of input, and I would like to give it like somewhere to be drawn, and then also the state. And the state is gonna be by pointer because it's allowed to change it. So we'll also need to kind of like define some state. And I think these number of squares thing is a is a thing that's specific to the editor. But in any case, let's include state.h and include editor.c, because inside here we'll have kind of the state of the program, and I'm not sure what exactly to put there right now. I mean, this one at least, that is some state we can put here. And we will need some states, a state variable, and there we go. So I guess I will do this, and let's start with this. So we're gonna use rectangles, so I'm also gonna have to include raylib.h here, and then we'll have draw editor, I think we called it, which will take a rectangle of like let's call it screen, and it will take the state by pointer, and then it will do something. I seem to have messed up a little bit somehow. Yes, this one shouldn't be there. Okay. Now let's just try to run it now. It's not gonna run at all because there's some kind of problem here. Let's try to indent this correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so editor open is not a thing we have, so we need to go in here and like that. and so maybe it's not comma, it's like that. And the screen rectangle we also need to define. So let me define it here. Screen rectangle is x starts at 0, 0, and the width is the width, and the height is the height. And these guys, I guess, should be commas. So now it's still complaining about screen rec being undeclared. So this declaration is not valid for some reason. We need a semicolon here. Okay, so now this draw clickable square has to be defined. I think we only use it in this function in the editor, I mean. So yeah, let's grab that, put it in here, and try to run it again. So in editor.c, it's complaining about this bounding box thing, this guy. So I'm also gonna put that into here, and we'll need to move some other things to the state thing, because it's also referring to this pattern. So let's go into, actually let me go here, let me do like that, and state. Right, so where do we have the pattern? I'm gonna declare that in here. It's probably not amazing, but whatever. So we're gonna need a pattern here in the state, and inside the editor, when we're referring to the pattern, we should say pattern replaced by state pattern like that. I think that's it. All right. See what's wrong now. Initializer element is not constant. Okay, so maybe here we'll just, I don't want to make the screen dimensions constant, because they could change if we decide to enable enable resizing. So let's just initialize it here instead. And there we go. And there was just one too many equals. Okay. Expected expression before. I have it declared here, so I don't get what it's trying to say. Let me ignore that for now. Okay, so then there's this toggles thing. So how are we going to do that? Only the editor is really using it, but there is some kind of you know what, let's try. So only the editor is using it, so let's put it here. Right, then we have a problem. So the problem is pattern. Then we have to say state.pattern is equal to pattern. So the problem is that this toggles has to be allocated at some point, and it also has to be freed, and it has to react to pressing this guy. So when we press the R key, then it should be reset. Now we cannot just do this, because then we'll allocate it every time. You know, we could kind of do this, allocate it all the time, and then in principle I suppose we can put this guy here. Right, actually then it's reset every frame. Right, so that doesn't really work. So there's kind of some state that has to be initialized. I don't like that particularly. So let's put it back here, and let's put it into the state. Put it into the state, and where's the allocation code? It was like that, and we had was that really how it was? Wait. So okay, so here it is. Okay, I am kind of confusing myself now, but that's fine. Okay, so we put these things in the state. The pattern we already put in the state. So let's go into the state. We're gonna put, and then we have to include std bool, and there we go. Then in the editor, in this guy, it should take the state, which is then by pointer, and then we will say the real problem is that like this number of squares is not something okay, you know what, let's not do this, because I don't think it's a good idea. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say boolean it's something, and then we're also gonna say editor initialized. That's gonna start out as false. And then down here, I'm not sure if this is a good pattern, but what I want to do is I want to avoid having like a call here that says like initialize editor. I don't want that. I just want to have this nice pure immediate mode GUI feel where you just draw the editor, and then that's it. So we're gonna say if not what did I call it? Editor initialized. Then we're gonna call init editor. And we'll probably take the screen and the state as arguments as well. Right. The problem is that maybe there's some de-initialization we want to do. And how will we handle that? I think we'll put that kind of in the state, and we'll say quitting. If we are quitting, so if state is quitting, then we'll say de-init editor, and just for symmetry, it will also take those arguments. So let's say init editor takes a rectangle, screen, and a state pointer. And right now it doesn't do anything. Same for this guy. Right, so now here where we initialize the state, let me look at the state. It also has a pattern. So let's say pattern is now just 0 initialized here, and quitting is false. Right. Okay, let's it's not gonna work quite yet, but let's just get it to compile first. So let's get rid of this guy. This thing has to now live in the editor. Code and 105. Okay, so now we have this number of squares thingy. It's gonna live here. It's some state just for the editor. And right. What we need is some include guards. So it's not included twice. All right, square size. Where is that? That's gonna live here as well. And oops, when we initialize the editor, I think we're gonna set these guys to something. Now width, it should be screen.width, and this should be screen.height. All right, let's see. Probably it still doesn't work. So what is this? What is this issue? Maybe you're just not allowed to do this. Can we do screen rect? That one worked. Okay, so this is amazing. The editor doesn't work at all, but the rest works. So for some, why doesn't the stupid editor work? Right, then we have to say editor initialized is true, and we also have to allocate this guy. That should be it. I hope there's no, so there is a reference to toggles here, which shouldn't be the case. Here we're gonna free toggles. It's not gonna work because we never tell it that we are quitting, but whatever. Still doesn't work. Let's try something. Let's how do we draw them, by the way? Draw editor. Yeah, we should offset it by the screen thingy. How does draw clickable square work? Just draw some rectangles. And does this thing great. So let's say print initializing, and let's print f and say toggles. I just want to see if it's non-zero. So it is there. Did we ever? We did initialize it. And the pointer is allocated, so why? Let's say same one for y, please. Okay, so number of squares y is a very small number. That doesn't look right. Screen height. Somehow square size, square. So let's say initializing with screen this thing. Okay, that's interesting. It's because screen it has to be state dot screen, right? No, hold on. It's set to 0. Why is it set to 0? I'm stupid. So there we go. Finally. So now we can draw some stuff. Let's try to save it. And I have, oh. It's not working. There was something weird, so let's go into the editor, let's close the program. So this is clearly not correct because, no, width and height is this. Get state, where is get state used? It's used there, but it's referencing something that shouldn't exist. let me see again. So get state is used inside draw fractal. I think that's still that one. Great, so where is draw fractal used? It's used there, and it's used here. So what the hell is pattern? Alright, it should be state.pattern. Strange. Very strange. I guess because it was referencing the original, and then here we free it, and then, yeah, that's not good. Okay. So does it work as we would expect? So let's make like a very simple one. This should just be all black, and we can make the square smaller and bigger. Let's do this guy, and that also looks correct if we go to this first level. And yeah, great. Final test. Still seems to work. Okay, that's very nice. Let's try to get the deinitialization code to run. So how do we do that? We need to do kind of like our own thing, which I'm not super happy about. So let's get rid of that. Okay. Then at the bottom, let's say if window should close, then should quit is equal to true. Now everything should, that didn't work. Oops, like that. Everything should work the same. We can still quit. What did it say there? Initializing with screen. Like, why are those numbers so insane? I don't get it. Shouldn't be the case. Should not be the case. So screen rectangle is 0, 0. Yeah, it's like filled with trash. Why? Like I'm literally setting it right here. Am I doing something wrong with how Raylib works? Maybe. No. X, Y. Maybe it's how I'm showing it, because it has to be floats. So the problem is just how it's shown. Great. Whoops, forgot to check. 800, 800, so that's correct. Okay, it was just a problem with how it was printed. Great. Let's get rid of this. Won't need that. Okay, so we simplified it a bit, and we can still quit. But now what we want to do is actually we say state.quitting is true. And then we want it to run one more time so everything can deinitialize. And then we can say if state.quitting now we are ready to quit. And I think that it's weird, but say deinitializing editor. So there we go. We initialize the editor and it doesn't work. It never printed this thing. So state.quitting, if state.quitting, we need something else. We need to say if editor initialized and this. So I feel like it should run one more time. But it only runs the deinitialization code if the editor is open. So if I do this and then exit, then it deinitializes. But if I do this and exit, it doesn't deinitialize. Okay, you know what? We are going to ignore that right now. Let's add a to-do. Let's say to-do doesn't work correctly. Only deinitializes when if the editor is open when the program closes. Okay. Okay, but let's go fix up the editor. So now we can do something. So right now it's taking up the full screen with this this drawing, this like state selection thing. So let's not do that. So what I want to do is here we just draw them kind of starting from the top right of our drawing rectangle. But let's say I don't want that. So let's call it state rect. Okay, so the x is gonna be screen.x, but then let's kind of like draw it in the middle. Okay, something like this. Now it will start in the middle. So we also need a width of this guy. So let's say float float state width. I kind of want to take up, let's say 40% of the screen. So yeah, let's do that. And then we'll say state width half, and y is screen y plus screen height. Now eventually we should make some kind of helper functions to define these kind of like sub rectangles. Yeah, but it is what it is. So let's say state rect, and actually when we initialize it, I don't want to use the full screen. I want to know this guy. So this is actually kind of like some state that should be outside. It's kind of like some, not local to the function, but something that kind of like lives on. So anyway, let's get this guy in here, and it's a rectangle, state rect. And here where we get the the size and number of squares. We'll use that guy instead. So let's try that, and it didn't work. Why not 87? Okay, we have to do this kind of thing. Okay. And actually, because of that, this has to be a pointer. Okay, let's go to init editor. Get the address of that guy. Let's do this. This one doesn't make sense. Let's try that. And still square size. Because we have sate. Right, these have to be semicolons now. Okay, here we go. So now that's interesting. That is very interesting. Number of squares. Why though? Why? But anyway, you see the point that now we have this smaller square, and we can move it around. Now, what is the problem? So it will say here square size, square size, square size. And it's using these X and Y, which I don't know, seems fine. It's using this X and Y as the index directly into, but that's not correct. So we'll also, let's just supply an index to this thing. It's gonna be I times number of squares x plus j. So where did I put that? I put it after the square size. So it's gonna be index. See if that works. Okay, looks more correct. Let's edit it, save, go here, go down to the first level just to check. Okay, perfect. Now, when it's smaller, it's a bit much with 40, so let's just do 20. It should be more than enough. Now, I don't want it to start in the middle. Actually, I want it to start just on the right, so we can have it over here. And I don't know, let's do that for now, because I want some other things on the right. I want to also, you know what we can do? We can say draw text editor, fractal editor, and let's draw it at screen.x plus 10, screen.y plus 10, and we'll say to write text. Great. So the whole point in always using this screen variable, this rectangle that we get here, is that we can do things like let's say that now we actually want to have like a width that is, I don't know, half of the width of the screen rectangle. And then we can say that it should be kind of centered. So we need divide by 2, divide by 2. And we can do this. Editor rect. You can just simply give it another rectangle and it should just work. So you can see now it's kind of like drawing it smaller. It's a bit hard to see because there's no boundary, but it's smaller now. Anyway, who cares? Let's go and do screen rect again, so it takes up the full screen. And what do we want to do? We want to have a rectangle for a color picker. So let's say color picker rect. We also want a rectangle for states rect. And because of that, I'm gonna rename this thing to pattern rect. I think that makes more sense. Let's try again, see if it works. Seems to work. All right. Great. Now when we're initializing, we need to provide these as well. At this point, it's kind of like annoying to do this. So since these are part of the global state and we treat the other ones like number of squares and things, we just reference those directly. Let's also do that here. See if that works. Looks like it works. Now I broke it somehow. Anyway, why is that? I kind of want to was something like this. Maybe it's just too many fractal levels. Okay. Where were we? So this one is going to be pattern width. So initialize rectangle for making a pattern. Initialize rectangle for selecting states. And it's gonna be something like this. Let's make it a little bit smaller. And we have to start at screen x, screen width. I have to start it like next to this guy. And we'll have it like same height as the pattern. And the width is not this, it's pattern underscore, should be states underscore. Wait, that was not right. Probably fine. So let's say initialize rectangle for color picker. And we'll end up using the whole screen, which I guess is fine. So it should be statesrect.x plus statesrect.width. Same height, this width, that one. Great. So we have, let's see, let's say draw pattern. See if that compiles, still works. Then we're going to say draw states, draw color picker. For now it doesn't take anything, and we're just going to draw a rectangle. How is it? It works. Draw rectangle. There is somehow, yeah, we can say draw rectangle rect and states rect, and the color is gonna be red, and draw color picker, draw rectangle rect, and it's gonna be not green. It's not gonna look good. Let's make it blue. And let's see if that works. So let's make a section here called drawing, a section here called input handling, and that did not work exactly correctly because we didn't initialize it correctly. So let's see. Why does it say states rect? It should be pattern rect. Here we go. Okay. So here we want to draw a bunch of squares and so let's say for I equals 0 less than num squares x, sure. What is the location of this guy? It's the square. It's not going to be square size. We're going to have our own square size. So let's say state size is squares x. Actually, let's have like num states. Let's say 10. Great, so it's times state size plus states rect dot x. And the y is just kind of like in the middle. And then we're simply going to draw a rectangle like that. It's fine. So now we have a bunch of rectangles. We should do something similar to what we do with the other rectangles, which is like that. We also want to draw rectangle lines, so we have like an outline. And I think, let's try to see how this looks. Looks fine. Okay, let me comment that out. Okay, this one might be more tricky. So let's say, what I imagine is that we have like a square that has the the what's it called? Let's make it just RGB for now. So we need kind of like a slider or something, or an input field. Let's make a slider. So let's say int is like red amount, start as 0. So go here, we'll say red amount, and then we'll say draw slider at so we'll say slider X should be slider width should be like, let's say, half of the width of this rectangle. So slider Y is something like, something like this. Slider height is 10, sure. And then let's replace this 10 with slider height. Okay, so slider X, slider Y, slider width. Actually, let's make that a rectangle. Slider rect. So we have this rect, and it will go from 0 to 255, sure, and it will control the red amount. I think this is a good interface. So void draw slider, and it will take a rectangle. It will take start, end, and it's called target. And how are we going to do this? Let's see what Copilot says. So what the heck is this slider width? Let's just try to make it, let it run. Okay, that didn't seem to work, so goodbye. Oops, what did I just do? Okay, goodbye. Right, so let's make the background first. So draw rectangle, rec, it's going to be the rectangle, and make it white. So here's the slider. That's where the slider is going to be. So let's say current position should be the target value, and let's cast that to float and then divide by end minus start. So that's kind of like the percentage. And then we'll multiply that by the width. And do this. So this is where we need to draw like a circle or something. So let's draw a circle. I'm sure there's a function for that. Indeed there is. Draw circle, copy it. So goodbye to that. So where is the center? The center is indeed the current position. And wait a second, these are integers. So just to make it clear, let's also change this to an integer. But this has to be float because of reasons. So let's say the circle height. That needs to be the rectangle y, and we also need the circle, well, rectangle y plus the height times divided by 2, circle height and circle. That's a float instead. Great, float. Circle radius is the height times maybe 80%. And the color is gonna be, this color is fine but for now. See how that goes? Great. So now we have kind of like this thing. Let me add a little bit more offset. Slider Y, slider height. And we'll add a margin. Margin is 10, sure. So now it's not like flush with the bottom. Okay. So now we need to like check if we are hitting this circle. So if the mouse button is down, I think it's called, is mouse button down? Sure. And we need to check collision. Check collision circles. Why is it circles and not just circle? Ah, it's because it's like a point. Check collision point circle. That's the one we want. Check collision point circle. So we have the point and we have the vector 2 circle. So this should be refactored at some point, but for now it's fine. So circle center, and we need circle radius. So now if they are, let's just print something like that. We don't have the mouse position because I forgot. And let's go back to here. We have the mouse position. And we need to go here and here. So now it knows we're dragging the slider. Okay, actually we need to have something like dragging slider. It's false. So let's say pressed. And say if dragging slider and is mouse button released, then we're not dragging it, and we're also gonna just say that not dragging anymore. Go here, go here. So we're dragging, release. Dragging, 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 release. Great. So we hit if we hit the circle, then we start saying we're dragging, and if we are dragging, then what just happened? If we are dragging, then the new position is just the X. If we're less than the start, we just go to the start. If we are I think that's correct. So let's try that. And now we can just drag it. And actually it already works. That's cool. That's cool. Okay. This video has been going on for a while, but we have like the start of an editor. This should still work. So we can still like make some patterns. It's a pretty boring pattern. How about this? Also boring. How about this? It's kind of fun. Anyway, we have this amazing tool where we can, that's interesting. I kind of like expected it to jump to here. But right now you have to click this circle. Okay, anyway, I think that's gonna do it for now. In the next video we'll keep improving this. And yeah, we'll see you then.